Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I'm your host tonight. My name is Nick Walsh. I'm here with my good pal who just hosted his very first Thanksgiving, I believe, right? Very first one.
Yeah, new house, had everybody over, both families, me and my girlfriend, and it was pretty fucking sweet. It was
Hell
great.
yeah! I'm here with
Yeah.
Vinny Gonzalez. Vinny, what's going on, man?
What's up? I just talked about my own Thanksgiving. I hope everyone had a great one as well. Walsh, I know you did. I hope all the listeners did as well.
Yeah, it was a fun day. It was a fun day of football. Certainly, Amari Cooper did some crazy things, thanks to a couple busted coverages, but we'll get into that certainly. We are here with the Week 12 recap. So we've got the news, the injuries, the interesting performances, and then we're going to go through the Thursday night game this week. The Dallas at New Orleans, or is it New Orleans at Dallas? I keep forgetting. New Orleans at Dallas. There we go.
You just made me like second guess that. I was like, pretty sure. It's like,
Yeah.
wait.
I like the second I started saying it, I was like, they're playing at Jerry World. Like, I know this. But anyway, before we get into all that, guys, we do want to let you know that we are here courtesy of Auction Draft. So while the NFL season may be almost over, your hopes of drafting a fantasy team are still not gone. With Auction Draft, you can draft your team at any time. Have a 5-week season. There are 5 weeks left, so hurry the fuck up with your friends. That way, when you pay too much for Le'Veon Bell, hoping he shows up, you get another shot to get it right in 5 weeks. You can sign up now by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/auction draft. And again, use that promo code LTFF and save 50% off your league. Guys, there are only 5 weeks left. I don't know if they're going to be sponsoring us after this. We'll see.
No more promo. We're just starting now.
We'll see how it all works out. But make sure if you do want to play at Auction Draft, which you should, it's fun, that you're getting in now before it's too late. Should have waited for a better pause to sip my beer. Vinny, let's get into the news of the week, and we'll start with Rex Burkhead, who I had all but forgotten about, honestly, like in terms of like his existence. Activated from IR, is going to play week 13. What does this do for you? Like, is he a guy you're trying to pick up?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. It just, it gives me a wilting feeling in the lower regions. When I think about like Sony Michel and James White now, I'm just like, now there's like another fucking dude there. And this is just going to be like the earlier weeks, and it's a pain in the ass, and it couldn't come at like a worse time.
Yeah, as someone who's been riding James White for a lot of the season, this fucking sucks for the fantasy prospects there. White has been less productive when Michelle has been in. This past week was a week where I wanted to play Peyton Barber over him, and I was like, no, stick to your guns. And then I should have played Peyton Barber over him. So it's not looking great there. We're going to need the Patriots to be involved in shootouts if we're White owners. For Michelle, I'm a little bit more bullish. I don't think this hurts his value too much because I still think he'll get that goal line work. I think Burkhead will kind of be used a little bit more between the 20s. But what do you think about those two specifically?
Burkhead or like James White and
like Michelle and James White?
I think I'm with you, man. Michelle, I think he'll be totally fine. He was a little banged up in the Jets game, but came back, got a touchdown, pretty cool, and again looked, pretty awesome. So I think I'm with you on Michelle being totally fine. James White, I'm a little concerned. Like, you were already teetering on not playing him in a pretty decent matchup against the Jets, and now it becomes like even more muddled. And then it's kind of one of those, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because he can go off and then he can also give you 6 now. So it really sucks.
Yeah, it just really widens his range of outcomes, whereas before we knew we had a floor with him that's just no longer there. Let's move to Jacksonville, where Blake Bortles has been benched for Cody Kessler. Cody Kessler has shown himself to be not particularly good in the in the time that he's played in the NFL. What do you think this does for the prospects of the rest of the Jags players going forward?
I mean, with Fournette, which we're going to get to next, him being suspended probably for next week, like, I want no part of anybody. Like, you change the quarterback, it's probably going to be Carlos Hyde, Yeldon, Committee, and the pass catchers haven't been consistent for shit. So stay away. Play the Titans defense.
Yeah, that's probably the right call. You mentioned it. Fournette is suspended this week, so we don't know exactly how that backfield is going to shake out. I mean, Shrek and I'll definitely have more insight into it when we do the preview later this week. But for now, I'm a little confused as to how all this goes. I want to take a look at the Vegas line, see what they have to say, and kind of come back from there.
I also messed up who they were playing. It's actually the Colts. So play the Colts defense. They play the Titans play them next week. So
okay, yeah, and honestly, I mean, the Colts defense isn't good, but it's not the sieve that it's been in past years, and the Titans defense has been better than we kind of thought it was going to be. So we'll see, particularly against the run. So we'll see how that sort of plays out there. The other bit of news here is that Aqib Talib is back from IR, could be back on the field as early as this week. We don't know if he's going to play. We don't know if he does play, if he's going to get full snaps. But if you remember back to the beginning of the year, the Rams weren't the shootout machine that they've been for the rest of the year when Talib was in the lineup. It was a small sample size, but they were really able to shut other teams down because they were able to get that pressure up the middle and then have a guy who can shut down a number one wide receiver in Talib. It allowed Marcus Peters to kind of take the chances that he's so good at taking rather than having to be their number one shutdown guy. Talib, to me, was really the key to this defense. And when they lost that key, they really got worse. So to me, that means a couple things. The Rams defense, I think, will be a lot better with him back. And then I think it might be bad for their not like killer, not like sit them bad, but I don't think it's good for the upsides of their skill position players, because you want these guys in these shootouts. You want them playing the Chiefs on Monday night, and maybe that doesn't happen quite as much with Talib back.
Yeah, I would say everybody but Gurley. I think Gurley's just untouchable. So I think he stays positive no matter what. Whether they mix in Marlon Brown like a little bit more is probably irrelevant, because I think Gurley's just going to fucking destroy for like the rest of the season. But I agree probably more on the pass catchers that they take a hit down because they won't be in these kind of shootouts. But we would have to see what Talib logs in practice, but it's a little concerning, especially looking at their matchup against the Lions this week to see because if Talib is on Golladay, this game is going to be very boring and just like Gurley with 50 points. And that's probably it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I mean, I don't want to overreact because, who knows if he's at full health or whatever else. Who knows if he comes back and is just immediately the same Aqib Talib. But yeah, that's concerning. Like if he's going to be like shadowing or see a majority of snaps against Kenny Golladay, who we otherwise love in this matchup, that's definitely concerning. So keep an eye out on the news reports there. Let's get into some injuries here, Vinny. So we got Melvin Gordon went down with an MCL injury when he should not have been in the game, running like a jet sweep or whatever the fuck they were doing. Very weird decision-making. Anyway, he's going to be out for a little bit. What does this do for the rest of this team for you?
So immediately, like Austin Eckler, if he's not owned, go get him. He's probably owned because it was kind of like handcuff territory around this time anyway, but take a look, see if he's there. Goes up against the Steelers this week. Will probably most definitely play this week. So I still think the Chargers are great. I know they demolished the Cardinals, but Eckler put up an amazing stat line in the second half, which was a lot of pass catching. So I feel like his floor is stabilized and then his ceiling is through the roof. So I still feel like he's a guy that you want to own and immediately play. And I really don't think it really downgrades the Chargers offense at all. I think they just have to play a different type of game with Eckler in there because he's not the running back that Gordon is, but he might not have to be because he has other skill sets they can utilize. And in Pittsburgh on Sunday night, most likely going to be a back and forth contest.
Yeah, you would think this would be a bit of a shootout here on Sunday night. And I agree with you completely. Eckler is a guy who, if he's not owned, to try and get him. If you do own him, you got to be starting him right away. He's a very talented guy, and he gets a lot of use in the pass game. This past week, he actually had 11 targets and 10 receptions. So as a running back, that's insane. Do you have any sort of – sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, even with Gordon, while they were splitting, I'm assuming they gave Gordon a lighter workload, but he had 9 PPR points by halftime. So there's something there. Even he was kind of getting to the earlier form in the beginning of the year when they were kind of doing – just both wrecking.
Yeah, absolutely. He was actually out carried by Justin Jackson, who is a rookie who hasn't gotten a ton of run this year, but we know that from preseason and whatnot that the Chargers do like him. So in the event that Gordon does miss some time, do you think Jackson's a guy who should be rostered, or are you staying away completely?
Maybe in a deeper league, it would just be like if you have to play him, I feel like you'd be banking on a goal line touchdown because I don't feel like the yardage will be there or the opportunity necessarily because there's probably no way to gauge it, especially since he got an opportunity really last week in relief to see like against the Cardinals. Like that's not exactly the best defense in the world, but he put up a decent stat line, had a decent amount of work, but I just don't know if you want to be necessarily throwing that dude into a lineup right away.
Yeah, he would be a desperation play for sure because Eckler's going to get all the pass work there, which is what's going to really bring this value. So you're kind of throwing him in there and hoping he either breaks a long run or gets a goal line carry, that sort of thing. I haven't, and this is my own fault, I haven't looked up the red zone touches from this past week to see if there's any sort of indication there. But that's something I might be able to come back for the preview with.
Eckler did have that 2-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
So he was in while they were inside the 20. So that might I don't know. It just kind of throws things again. So you really don't want to play the guy.
Yeah. Well, that definitely makes sense. Let's move to your Bengals, Vin. I'm sorry, this is a tough one. Andy Dalton sent to IR with a thumb injury. Tell me what you think.
I'm upset. I'm sad. I just hate how this shit has to happen to Andy. Like it doesn't help him. Like there's lots of fans that still hate him, and I see it like every day. Just like leave the dude alone. He's trying his best, and he's one of my favorite players. But that's besides the point. Jeff Driscoll's show now, which is I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely a downgrade from Dalton. But he kind of brought them back in that Browns game where they were getting decimated.
He didn't look bad.
No, he did not. So there could be some hope. And the Bengals, I wrote this on the outline where I said AJ might follow suit and also go to IR since the season's over, but like it's totally not. They're only one game out from the wild card spot, and they're probably going to go down swinging for a couple more weeks. So see what's going on with AJ, see if they bring him back. And I don't necessarily know if Jeff Driscoll like downgrades the offense enough where you would want to sit anybody. Like I would probably still play AJ if he's active. I'd mix in definitely. And if AJ isn't active, probably stick to like John Ross and Boyd.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, depending on AJ's status, Tyler Boyd's definitely the best play. And John Ross continues to just kind of catch touchdowns each week, which is weird because he's like 5'9" or whatever he is. But
goal line touchdowns too. It's like,
yeah,
what the fuck are you doing?
He keeps getting like a 2-yard touchdown catches. I'm like, this is weird, but whatever works, I guess. So ride it till it don't ride, I guess. But yeah, it is really a shame. We've talked about the Bengals season and how it started off so promising, but unfortunate that this has to be the case. I'm an asshole quarterback streamer. I may consider playing Jeff Driscoll in certain spots for the rest of the year, particularly in daily. I don't know what their matchups look like, but
they're playing. Well, they have Denver coming at home, so it's not.
Yeah, hard fuck that.
Yeah, it's not amazing.
Okay, never mind.
That's just for this week.
Let's go to Detroit, where Marvin Jones was sent to IR with a knee injury. We just talked about Galladay. We mentioned how if Talib comes back, Galladay won't be as good of a start. Galladay's still a guy you're playing every single fucking week, no matter what. Galladay is like going to get so much volume in this offense.
Yeah, that's just going to be the mainstay. It's just, I think we're just a tad overreactive to the Talib news, but yeah, he'll get enough volume to do, his normal stuff.
And then do you have any interest in guys like Bruce Ellington or maybe Theo Riddick getting a little bit more pass volume?
Honestly, I think Theo Riddick is probably the safest bet there. I wouldn't really be playing with Bruce Ellington.
Okay, I think Ellington should be owned. He's a guy who's been productive when he's sort of gotten opportunities in the past, and the target should be there, particularly in a game this week against the Rams where they're going to be playing from behind, you would think, for most of the game. So, yeah, I'm kind of okay with those secondary options. Let's talk about a former Detroit Lion who is now going to have a lot more opportunity. because Jack Doyle was sent to injured reserve after a kidney procedure. So get well soon, Jack. But in the meantime, it's the Ebron show.
Oh, it's been the Ebron show, dude. But now we can probably bank on a little more target share, which is fucking excellent.
Yeah, I mean, he promptly came out and showed you why after that goose egg last week, why you still don't sit him, just because he's been so consistently targeted in the end zone this year, and all this Doyle injury does is make him more targeted in between the 20s now too. So keep it going, keep riding the Ebron train. Marlon Mack for the Colts was the other injury. He got concussed. Now, we don't really know what his status is going to be like this game, but if you're going to be playing a Colts running back, would you rather have Nyheim Hines or Jordan Wilkins there?
I think Nyheim Hines, it seems like they use him more consistently, and then Wilkins is like breaking the big plays. So I think I would stay with Hines.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Wilkins also had a fumble that got him in the bit of the doghouse this past week. So Hines, I think, is the guy that you really should be looking at there. But again, keep an eye on concussion protocol is a weird thing, and who knows how it's actually going to work out. Okay, another running back that is very inconsistent. I guess we'll keep going with those sorts of themes. Kenyon Drake, shoulder injury. He returned to the game. Do you have any further news there?
No, it's just he's going to be practicing non-contact again, similar to last week. Just maybe he took a pretty hard tackle and just kind of irritated that injury. But I'm assuming he's going to do the same thing he did last week, just no contact and probably limited. But if he plays, they're probably going to do the same split. But Drake had a great game this past week.
Yeah, and he did it really in the passing game. I said it to you guys this weekend. I've given up on trying to predict the Dolphins. I don't fucking know. I just don't listen to me on Kenyon Drake. I'm never going to play Kenyon Drake because I don't own him, and I'm never going to play him in daily. Just don't listen to anything I have to say because I don't fucking know. I'm tired of trying to have opinions on the Dolphins. I can't do it.
Yeah, they've been a weird team, and now that Tannehill's back, they do different things, and I guess Drake being involved was one of those things. But yeah, they're very hard to predict, and Drake's a tough sell to put in your lineup for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he had all that production through the air and only 6 targets. So it's not like he was really going crazy. But yeah, let's move to sorry. I sneezed. I'm a sneezy boy.
First podcast sneeze of the year, baby.
Dude, I think that is the first time I've sneezed. I was trying to speak quickly enough so I could just get you to say something and I can mute myself and not do that without having a weird gap.
You didn't even come close to that.
No, I was gonna be all right, let's talk about Deshaun Jackson, Vinny. What do you think? And then it's not even close. All right, Vinny, let's talk about Deshaun Jackson. I'm gonna mute myself so I can blow my nose. What's the news on Deshaun Jackson this week?
Not too much. As I watch you blow your nose on mute. He just, I guess, fucked his thumb up and didn't get great news, so he's going for a second opinion, which is bad fucking news. So we shall see, but really hasn't been a fantasy asset lately, and I don't really think this affects his value so much, more so as it bumps up Evans or Brait or Humphreys while he's missing.
Yeah, we saw Adam Humphreys get in the end zone. He had a very productive week for those of us who went ahead and started him. I say those of us like I was one of them. I didn't start him. I should have. Chris Godwin also got a bit of a bump in workload. So any of those guys, I think you can give a little bit of a bump up as long as Jackson stays out here. And then moving to New York, Evan Ingram injured his hamstring before the game started. Was not reported until after the game started. So sorry if you played him. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there are people that did, but that game popped up on the thing. And it was just Evan Ingram is hurt as hell. And I was like, what? That never even got reported. And then all the pop-ups came through during game time, halfway through the first. And I was like, that really sucks. They're so on top of that stuff. And this time they just weren't.
Yeah, that's something you need to like look at why that didn't get reported if you're the NFL and fucking fix that. Cause like Evan Ingram, like people played him, I'm sure, but like it's not a crazy one. Like imagine if that happened to someone like very important, you know, and just like
Yeah.
15 minutes into the game, you find out that that fucking Christian McCaffrey isn't playing because he hurt himself. You know, it's like, what the hell? So yeah, work on that, NFL. Do you know anything about his status this week? Because I really haven't looked into it.
I've seen that it's up in the air, but seems positive. So I think with a good practice week, he'll probably start.
Yeah, hamstring injuries are tough, so keep an eye on that throughout the week. Xavier Rhodes on the defensive side of the ball, also a hamstring injury. Now, you know, while he's not a guy you're starting on your fantasy team, he is a guy who guards a lot of the number one wide receivers. So, how do you think this affects the guys going up against them?
It affects him largely. Like that, like the one problem when you were looking at the Packers matchup was, oh shit, Devontae Adams is going to be on Rhodes most of this time, and usually gets the better of him in this case. But he's also like Aaron Rodgers' number one dude. So when you have someone else going up against the Vikings now, way less of a problem. They're probably going to be in a shootout most likely. I also think in a weird way it bumps up the Vikings offense if they're going to be more susceptible to the pass. They're going to let up a ton of points and have to kind of duel it out in certain ways. But that's kind of super in depth looking at like how one person could swing how you look at a matchup.
Yeah, definitely. This weekend they play the Patriots. So like if Rhodes is sitting, Josh Gordon becomes very, very viable. Whereas before we maybe would have tried to find a better matchup in that situation. So just keep an eye out on the matchups there. Keep an eye on the news. Jeff Hireman went to IR, broken ribs and a bruised lung. That sounds painful. Funny story about Jeff Hireman. My buddy Tom, who I spent Thanksgiving with, he was playing Jeff Hireman this past week. He has had 4 tight ends go to IR while he's on them this year. Jeff Hireman being the latest. And
no.
And before the game started, he was like, "I got to call Denver and tell him I picked up Hireman. Like they should probably like keep him in like a bubble or something to keep him out of harm's way." And then he fucking gets broken ribs and a bruised lung and goes on injured reserve. So I am not envious of the next tight end that gets picked up by my buddy Tom.
Who did he start with? Delaney Walker?
Delaney, and then there was someone else in between, and I forget who it was, but then OJ
Was
Howard
it Eifert?
Yeah, it was Eifert. It was Walker, Eifert, OJ Howard, and now Jeff Hireman.
So it's fucking Tom's fault why the Bengals season is where it is right now.
Yeah, dude, blame him. Talk to him about it.
That bastard. That really fucking sucks, man. Some people have rotten ass luck, and we've had our fair share, but that's a funny one looking from the outside.
Yeah, it is. In terms of lessons you can take from this, I don't know that you're picking up Lacoste, who's their next tight end. I don't know. I don't think you're really doing much of anything with this information other than trying to look to other places to pick someone else up. And then the last one we have on the injury report here is Kiki Cutie, hamstring injury left during that game. He's trending towards playing in week 13, but keep an eye on it because this was something he had previously. And like hamstring injuries fucking suck. You never know whether to play a guy or not with them.
Yeah, I was off Kiki for a while. And you never trust like hamstring, like usually with wide receiver, it's worse. Because they can go out and test it and see if they can run some routes and then go hard on a different one, but they have more leeway, I would say. And then sometimes they overdo it, and this seems to be the case. And then we saw DT just get kind of more integrated with the offense. Had a terrible stat line, but hey, 2 touchdowns. So there is something to be had there in value, but I don't think Kiki's going to be hanging around much longer on teams.
Yeah, that's fair. He's been on and off the injury report most of the year. So that's going to do it for our injury report. We're going to get into some interesting performances from this past week right after we hear from Auction Draft. I'm going to get a beer.
Okay.
Cool. I'll be right back.
Cool. Yeah.
Sweet.
Hey.
Hello. That's a beer.
There's the flavor.
I haven't watched that in a while. Maybe I should do that soon.
Like tonight.
Possibly. I was thinking about what to watch after this. I might just go through and watch the Best Friends World Tag League matches. I've only seen 2 of them so far, and I think they've wrestled 4.
Is that the one you told me about last week? Or 2 weeks ago?
I don't know.
With like Cobb and somebody?
Oh, no. That was Cobb and Elgin versus Sonata and Evil.
Yes. Did you watch that?
Yeah, it's really good. There's also from the first night, I thought the one that was better was Ishii and Yano versus ZSJ and Taichi was extremely good. And ZSJ and Taichi in general have been like fucking kick ass in this tournament. So
nice.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go through and watch the Trent and Chuck matches, and you should go through and watch their promos too. They're very, very funny.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, they're very. Chuck just comes back and goes, "Best friends, baby," like over and over again. It's very fun.
Oh, they're the best.
All right, should we get back into this?
Yeah.
All right. All right, welcome back, guys. Again, that was Auction Draft. Make sure you are checking them out while you still have the chance, because the season's almost over. It is what it is. I'm going to get real depressed about it. Anyway, Vin, we have some interesting performances to talk about. The first one is Gronk in his return from injury. 7 targets, 3 catches, 56 yards and a touchdown. The big one was that 32-yard touchdown catch up the seam where he looked like a vintage Gronk, as I guess you would say. So how do you think this bodes for the rest of the season for him?
I would say okay. I would like when you watch Gronk now, it just looks like he's a total shell of like what he was. But the touchdown was really cool. But I don't feel like that's a thing that might I feel like it might have been a tad fluky. But in the Patriots offense where Gronk is healthy, you're not sitting him, you're playing him, you're kind of putting up with it. But it just made me realize like this is more than likely Gronk's last year, I would think.
Yeah, this is the swan song. I mean, I don't know if it's like the last year, but he said, I think, that when Brady retires, he's going to retire, even though they're like 10 years apart in age or whatever.
Or if they try to trade him or let him go, like he just said he's done. He's only playing for the Patriots. So
yeah, and I mean, it has been, certainly a dip in he's not the Gronk that we're used to. So, if you're going to tell me he's going to get 7 targets a game for the rest of the year, I'm starting him every time. In the league that I own him, it was a decision between him and Cameron Braid, who I had just picked up. And of course, the very first drive, Braid catches that touchdown. And I was just like, fuck, Gronk's going to throw me like a 0. Like, this is going to suck. So when he caught that 32-yard touchdown, that made me very happy. But yeah, it's a little tough watching from like an emotional standpoint in terms of just like seeing him in his prime and then seeing him now.
Yeah, honestly, even Brady too doesn't really look all that spectacular. So it's a little worrisome. We're finally seeing it kind of slow down, I think, especially now that it's late in the season. So eager to see how they hold up and, what they do in the playoffs because, they're making it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to the Ravens and specifically Gus Edwards. Alex Collins was inactive, so Gus got 23 carries for 118 yards. He fucked the Raiders up. And the Raiders suck, so you would have expected this, I guess. But during that second half, where basically all they were doing was pounding the ball with him and then running the ball with Jackson as well, uh, he looked great. And I think they have a good matchup this week. I don't remember off the top of my head.
They're playing the Falcons.
Oh, great matchup.
Yes, they have a string of them. And this is why I was pumped as an Alex Collins owner, and now I am sad because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But their offense just looks pretty wild. I mean, they've had two good matchups to display what they could do at their ceiling. And I don't think that's going to stop against the Falcons necessarily, but they do have a good schedule basically to finish. They have a handful of rough ones maybe around in the playoffs or slightly before. So we might see something change or Joe Flacco be healthy, but there are a lot of variables that go into this new vamped like fucking Ravens offense, which is completely just changed what it was with Joe Flacco at the helm.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I did see they said they want Flacco to get a full week of practice in before he comes back, which is like weird. Like he's been your starting quarterback for a decade. Like you'd think he like wouldn't need a full week of practice to come back. But anyway, maybe they're just saying that because they want to make excuses to keep starting Jackson without like hurting his feelings or something. I don't know.
Like you said, Walsh, they've seen him for a decade, so they know what Flacco is.
Yeah, and so it does seem like they're planning on starting Lamar Jackson this week against Atlanta, which, depending on his price on DraftKings, makes him the most, probably the best start of the week at quarterback. but and certainly in quarterback one territory in redraft leagues and whatnot. But yeah, we'll see how it sort of works out there. I am a little bit worried about Alex Collins coming back. Do you think that could have any sort of issue with Edwards?
I was going to ask you, I don't know if this is like a dumb thought I had in my mind or if it's just something I wish was true. Do you think like if Flacco ever came back that it would be like Alex Collins' job again? If it's like a dumb coach thing, like they match better than like Edwards and fucking Jackson, or is that just, I'm thinking like a moron?
So you're thinking like John Harbaugh is what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to get inside the mind. And it's like I'm having a rough time because like I'm so biased with like Alex Collins being on like several of my teams and then just like looking at what they are now. And I just that crept in my head and I was like, that might be the case and I'm not sure.
Dude, like it's possible because like that's like the exact type of thought that I could hear like John Gruden enthusiastically saying, and like Harbaugh is like right there with it, in terms of that wavelength of just like enthusiastic football guy. But yeah, I wouldn't bank on it. It's not something you can really like, even if Flacco were to come back, you can't start Collins the first game,
Correct.
So it's, I don't know. It's a weird situation, but for now it seems like the Jackson and Edwards show, this should be like a cop duo, Jackson and Edwards.
They're saving Baltimore right now.
That's true. It's the plot of the
Wire
reboot of The Wire. Everyone's acts. I've watched like 2 episodes of that show because it's one that Rogers always tells me to like.
It's the best show of all time.
Watch. Yeah, that's what he says too. And the accents fucking kill me, man. I hate Baltimore accents. They're the worst.
Are you kidding me? Come on, dude. It's fantastic. It's funny because everybody on The Wire is like British in real life, which is funny when you see like the behind the scenes or the interviews. I'm just like, no shit.
They're all just putting on like shitty suburban Baltimore accents.
Shitty. They're incredible. You don't deserve to watch it. Just stop watching.
Okay, fine. All right. Let's move on to Amari Cooper, who we talked about or we mentioned briefly before. In this Thanksgiving game, 9 targets, 8 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns were both blown coverages, so we can chalk that up to whatever you want to there. He's still involved.
Raiders fan being one of those things.
They were blown coverages. I'm not lying.
I know they were. It's just funny that he has a great game and you pick that out immediately.
Yeah, I want to make myself feel better about it. Can you believe like he looks like this with Dak Prescott and like Derek Carr must suck, right? That like he couldn't make Amari Cooper good.
But he did make him good one year.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the year everything went right for them. Anyway, let's talk about Amari Cooper's outlook the rest of the year. Do you think he's an every week starter at this point?
Yes, but I think you take this as his absolute best game that he will have this season and drop his ceiling like probably 15 points.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We saw, I mean, in the 3 out of the 4 games since he came to the Cowboys, he's had 7 or more targets. So that's a guy, again, you're starting every week. We know he's talented. This was the absolute right scenarios. He got the blown coverages. Don't expect this, but expect him to be productive, I think, and you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I think this was his Cooper blow up of the year. So it finally happened later than usual. But yeah, I feel like he's someone you're definitely playing, but temper your expectations because this is probably it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to another blow up game in Christian McCaffrey. 17 carries, 125 yards and a touchdown through the air. He had 11 catches, 112 yards and a touchdown. He plays Tampa this week. Is he going to do it again?
Let's fucking go. Why not?
I hope so, man.
He did against the Seahawks, which was, yeah, absolutely, man. This was impressive as shit. And then there was that one drive where he just had all 75 yards and the touchdown. I was like, that's fucking sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Just completely crazy. I do legitimately think, I think in tournaments in daily fantasy, I think that's the make or break question of the week is, are you paying up for McCaffrey or are you fading him? Because it's the perfect matchup for him, but like, how can he, I don't know. Anyway, he's going to be so owned, but whatever. The point is he's fucking awesome. They're using him constantly and you should have him locked into your lineup no matter what the matchup, but specifically this week against Tampa Bay. We'll move on to his teammate, DJ Moore. In the follow-up to his breakout week, 9 targets, 8 catches, 91 yards. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's solid. It's a good game. And I think, especially since they're playing Tampa, that would be another matchup where you feel more comfortable playing him. And I think he was going to work his way into most flex spots or wide receiver 3s and what have you for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth looking at whether or not Funches is going to come back. But if Funches comes back and Torrey Smith is healthy now and DJ Moore becomes their 3rd wide receiver, Ron Rivera should be thrown in off a cliff. Like it's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. DJ Moore is clearly the most talented receiver on this team. And needs to be getting, 95 to 100% of the snaps each week.
Yeah. Even Curtis Samuel is more productive and I think more talented than like Funchess and, Torrey Smith at this point in his career for sure. So yeah, I think they just need to do things differently and it's been working with, DJ Moore and Samuel and just, do that creative shit with the slants and just enjoy it because Funchess is not a 1 and Torrey Smith is just like a fill-in for you this year. So get these young guys some work and keep it consistent.
Yeah, and help us get the fantasy production we want out of DJ Moore.
Because that is what matters in life.
Exactly. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and specifically Baker Mayfield, who is getting it done without a ton of volume. He was 19 for 26, only 258 yards, 4 touchdowns. That'll work.
All in the first half.
Yeah. They just went up and they didn't give a fuck about anything the rest of the way.
No, they did not. It was very hard to watch. But yeah, I like Baker, which sucks because I didn't want to like Baker, and I like Baker. And he's looking like a very good quarterback and a good prospect for the Browns.
Yeah, definitely. It was also a comeback game for David Njoku, who had 5 catches on 5 targets, 63 yards and a touchdown. Are you okay with riding him the rest of the way?
Yeah, you can ride him. I will say that touchdown was bullshit. I was very, very mad. I wanted to throw something through the wall. It was just Jesse Bates had him up and didn't want to slam him down, so he would get a penalty, and then all of a sudden some Browns come over and just deck him instead of getting forward progress stopped, which was shitty. I was upset. But yeah, Njoku was fine. It was a good play. And I feel like with the way tight end is, fuck it, man. Seems to be Baker's guy also. Way more preferred than Landry.
Yeah, and while we're at it, let's just go with the rest of the Browns on our list. So we'll talk about Landry. 2 straight games with not the what production we wanted in what would seem like very good matchups. So what do you do with him?
It's tough, man. I really don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff where people want to drop him, and I don't know if that's necessarily the move you want to make. I would say if you have someone that's been like, let's say if you have DJ Moore on your team and you also have Landry and you've been, playing Landry over him. I think, especially this week with the matchup, I think DJ Moore would be preferred over Landry.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. And honestly, just looking at their matchups, I just pulled them up. So the next 4 weeks, they've got Texans. That's tough. Panthers, not like it's middle of the pack. Broncos, we don't like that shit. And then Bengals, that we love that shit. So really not great matchups for them for the next 3 weeks or so until you're in the championship. So it's going to be a little interesting. The biggest takeaway for me is that the target distribution has been very flat for the Browns. So, Landry and Callaway lead the way. Njoku's up there, but like they've had Perryman getting targets. Rashard Higgins has gotten targets. I think Landry has 17 targets over the past 3 weeks, and like Perryman and Higgins have 9 and 8. Like that's not as big a big enough difference for a 1 to 3 or 4 wide receiver for Landry to be like an every week play, I think.
Yeah, and that was all against the Bucks, the Falcons, and the Bengals. Like 3 sexy matchups, and just did not take advantage of it. They went elsewhere with the ball. They're unselfish, and it's just that's kind of what it is. I don't know why they're not targeting him more, or why Baker isn't, but it would suck if in these tougher games where they need to have a catch, they go to Landry more and he starts putting up that would be so frustrating.
That's what's going to happen. Like we're going to get fucked by benching Jarvis Landry over the next couple weeks, like at least once. Like it's just gonna, because like football's dumb and doesn't give a fuck about, the matchups or our feelings or anything else. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to bench Jarvis Landry and he's going to go nuts.
He's also good, which he just hasn't been able to show it, which was kind of the problem on the Dolphins. But they
this week being a Callaway game too, it's just like fucking
yes.
God.
His first touchdown? No, well, his second, I think.
Second touchdown. Bomb. This was like a very, very good game for him too. He had like a solid performance. So what can you do? Let's stay with the Browns for one more, and then we'll go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Nick Chubb, 28 carries, 84 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches, 44 yards and a touchdown. They're using this motherfucker in the passing game, like just as much as Duke, it seems like.
Yeah, it's crazy. Chubb sees so much fucking volume, doesn't necessarily do too much with it, but he's talented as fuck, and he's out there for like most of the snaps, probably 80 to 90%. So fucking roll this guy until it stops.
Yeah, every week. And I know we just said the matchups are not ideal going forward. You are not sitting Nick Chubb in any of those matchups.
Yeah, no way.
All right, let's go to Juju Smith-Schuster. Listen to this fucking line. 17 targets, 13 catches, 189 yards and a touchdown. That included a 97-yard touchdown. Yeah, I mean, he started off really hot and then kind of cooled down. Is this just a case of like, hey, you should have played him, and that's about it?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, Juju's great, and just the offense it fluctuates from like, is Brown going to go the fuck off? And he's kind of cooled off himself. And now Juju's just picking up the slack, and they're going to Vance a little more. So Juju's on the up, and I think the offense in general is probably going to have to sling a little bit more in the next couple matchups they have.
Yeah, I mean, they have a couple players that don't necessarily have the highest floor, and that's Connor, McDonald, Brown, and Smith-Schuster. But you need to play them every single week because
this could happen.
Yeah, they have this in them. And while we're at it, let's talk about James Conner. He's really cooled off these last couple of weeks. So are you concerned? Are you thinking about maybe sitting him if you have, I don't know, like Nick Chubb or Phillip Lindsay or these sorts of guys?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of, he goes along with everyone else we just talked about, like too much of a good offense where they will feed him and give him way more touches. So I still feel like the upside is there. Maybe the, fatigue is starting to hit or whatever, because they really did give him like probably like Bell level touches every single
Mhm.
game that he was active, like 30, sometimes 30 plus. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was having a tough time just, putting together, the stat lines we were used to, because it's a long fucking season. And this is his first like full go as a lead back. So maybe they're riding him too hard early on, but you're not benching James Conner is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's, I'm definitely a little concerned about it, but I'm not going to change the way I'm constructing my lineup around it. Let's talk about Lamar Miller, who matched Juju with a 97-yard touchdown. Tell me about this game, man, because I didn't get to watch much of it, but Lamar went nuts.
Yeah, Lamar went nuts, but then like that play was insane. The 97-yard touchdown was absolutely wild. Old Lamar came back for a little bit, but what shocked me about like the overall takeaway from that game with Miller is they didn't really ride the hot hand and give him more opportunities. Like they only rushed him 12 times and he had 162 yards, and that's with a 97-yard touchdown. And he was,
Alfred Blue had more carries.
yes, he did. What do you have, 13?
Yep.
Yeah, and he had like 54 yards, which is like, what the fuck are you doing when Alfred Blue is running into the back of a lineman for like the 90th time in the season when you have Lamar Miller averaging over 6 yards a carry in this game? I don't understand what the Texans are trying to do, because it's just weird. And they won't even ride Lamar Miller when he's like fucking beast moding it up on like Monday Night Football. So they're a weird offense. I feel like Miller got lucky, but there's always, I guess, this potential, which was good to see, but it's a little too late.
Yeah, Miller's general sort of week is going to be between 5 and 12 points. This was definitely an outlier.
Yes.
It is really hard to trust him with him splitting as with Blue as much as he does. I guess the other question with that is, do you think Blue should be like owned or played at all?
Not played. I would guess, since we're getting close to playoffs, if you have Miller and you're
Handcuff.
yeah, I guess so, man. Times are desperate. The only thing that kind of throws a wrench in that idea is Foreman. I feel like the Texans have actually been very good with their updates with Deontay Foreman. He's still not ready to come back from the Achilles, but there are still like swirling rumors that they might activate him soon. So just keep an eye on it. But I guess Blue could be owned and rostered by like a Miller owner or someone that's like mega desperate.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. I don't buy that Deontay Foreman's coming back this week or this year. I don't think it's going to happen. Because why the fuck would you bring him back?
Yeah, I trust that guy. Achilles is no joke.
Yeah, there's just no reason to. I mean, I know they're heading into the playoffs and whatnot, but like, is Deontay Foreman off an Achilles really going to be better than the Alfred Blue, situation there? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to Philip Lindsay. Continued to handle more than double the work of Royce Freeman. Ended this game with 14 carries for 110 yards and a touchdown. He's the real deal. He's an every week start, right?
Absolutely, man. How could we have fucking predicted this by this time? Like, Royce Freeman he's definitely not a bust, and he's definitely still good.
That's the thing. He's been fine.
Yeah, Philip Lindsay's just fucking better, man. He really is.
Yeah, he's great. It's amazing that every single NFL team passed on him 7 times in the draft, but I guess the draft is a little bit inefficient, but we probably already knew that. Let's move on to Andrew Luck. The notes that you put here for Andrew Luck is massive, massive cock. Tell me about his massive, massive cock.
The massive, massive cock comment stems from this stat. 8 straight weeks, 21 plus fantasy points. Fucking welcome back, Andrew Luck, dude. We were ready to throw the towel in when we saw Brissett like chucking up, a Hail Mary in one of the Colts games early on. But god damn, has he been efficient, awesome, and winning fucking games for the Colts, and they look good.
Yeah, definitely. Frank Reich, really, really good rookie coach. Andrew Luck, back to it. That defense, not bad. The offensive line, which has been like the bane of the Colts' existence for like as long as I can remember, is good. It's so weird. But yeah, he's been great. If you're riding him, keep riding him. and keep riding his weapons too. Because with Ebron, that again with Doyle getting hurt, that target shares or that target distribution is getting narrower, and I think with Matt getting hurt too, you've got the Hines, the Hilton, and the Ebron, and they're all going to do pretty well. It seems like.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. T.Y. Hilton too has been, absolutely taking off. So that's
Thank
good.
God.
If you didn't trade him or anything, he's paying off for you.
Yeah, after those couple weeks in the middle of the season, or I guess it was before 2 weeks ago, where it was a couple weeks straight where he was barely targeted, but he was in bad matchups and like he was coming off injury and all that, and he hit some unlucky parts, I think. But he's back and he's TY, so thank God. The last interesting performance that I want to talk about is DeAndre Hopkins, who for the past 2 weeks has gotten 6 targets a game. Now, we know he's talented enough to do things with that, which also I went into a game in a PPR league, or went into a matchup in a PPR league last night, down 12 points with DeAndre Hopkins to go. The other guy had no one, and I lost by less than a point. I was like, fuck. I thought I would have won that, like, no problem. You tell me that the Texans are putting up 34 points in this. I'm like, yeah, I'm winning by like at least 7. And it just did not happen, but that's all right. Hopkins has had 6 targets the past 2 weeks. The first week, Kiki Cutie had a bunch of targets. This past week, it was Demaryius Thomas. They're just not throwing the ball that much. They haven't had to. Watson, I think, has had less than 30 pass attempts in like the past 5 or 6 weeks. So what do you think about Hopkins moving forward?
I'm not even really concerned, actually. I feel like he'll be totally fine. Like you said, he can do more with 6 targets than like half the league. So I'm not really worried. The Texans are I think they're just trying different things as the season progresses. Like they're just trying to, like, DT was used way more, especially down by the goal line, because all the attention goes over to Hopkins. And is that concerning? Sure. Can he beat the coverage? Fuck yeah, he can. So I'm not really terribly worried. Maybe the volume's a tad concerning, but I feel like they'll be in tighter games where they need to go to him as like a must for like a first down or like in the red zone. So I'm not too concerned.
Okay, I think that's fair. I'm a little concerned, but at some point they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. If QE's still hurt, like that's gonna change things as well. I'm sure he'll rebound. So, with that being said, let's get into the Thursday night game. New Orleans at Dallas. New Orleans is a 7-point favorite. The over-under is 53. I don't particularly know what to make of this game. I don't have a good read on it. I think New Orleans is easy, though. It's Breeze, Kamara, Ingram, Thomas.
Yes.
And then the rest of it sort of depends on Traquan Smith's health.
Yeah, because I think you can get away with playing Traquan if he's actually healthy for this game. At least on Thursday, which was also the case this week with the Thanksgiving game, and he obviously scratched. I think he's an okay play. Maybe not the most exciting one because I don't feel like this might be more grittier and less of a shootout than people seem to think. Because I feel like New Orleans has been home for like 9 straight weeks at this point. Every time I'm watching them, but this is like their first away game in a while.
I'm like way on the under on this one. Like when I saw 53, I thought it was really high.
Yeah, I'm like 100% with you on that. Like I feel like New Orleans would do their thing enough to win the game, but I feel like Dallas, we always talk about how they play to, grind the clock out, and New Orleans has been shown to do that at some points too. So this might be a totally different game than we've seen from the past couple of weeks for New Orleans. So I'm tempering my expectations on everybody on the Saints offense and really the game in general. I feel like it's going to be a great fucking game, just a little on like the low scoring side.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I will say you'll probably hear names thrown out if Traquan Smith doesn't go, which I didn't mention it. I don't even think he played Traquan if he goes. Just coming off that injury, okay. I don't really trust it. You might hear like Keith Kirkwood or Tommy Lee Lewis or Austin Carr thrown out. If he doesn't go, the issue with those, I think, is that one, Dallas slows the pace of the game down. They have good cornerbacks. And then Kirkwood, like none of them were even the clear-cut number 2 wide receiver this past week with Smith out. So Kirkwood had 52% of the snaps. I think Lewis had like 48, and then Carr, I want to say, had 40%. None of them had more than 3 targets. So we're talking about a 3-way split, more or less even, for the number 2 and 3 wide receiver position in a game where New Orleans is going to be pacing down. Don't bother, no matter what trendy things you hear about it.
Yeah, you could have got cute last Thanksgiving game with New Orleans with Traquan being out, and you probably would have gotten lucky.
Yeah, against the Falcons, that's the time to get cute. You would have gotten one catch for a touchdown from either Kirkwood or Tommy Lee Lewis or Austin Carr.
Exactly. Like, this is not the Falcons game. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. Don't even look this way.
Cool. Moving on to Dallas, I think Zeke, while I don't think Zeke is going to have a great game. You just don't sit Zeke. And then Amari Cooper, we talked about before. He's an every week starter at this point. Do you think you can play Dak?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't. He's been, taking it up a notch a little bit. That's mainly due to a lot of Cooper's production, and I feel like Cooper's not going to have the best game, especially with like Lattimore matching up against him more often than not. And then we're probably going to have to go to more like Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup on certain plays. So it's going to be definitely a weird game where these teams match up like pretty like great against each other. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of immovable object versus the immovable force, whatever the fuck that thing is. I can't think of right now.
Immovable object, unstoppable force, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, I couldn't. I think it's
unstoppable object. No, it's immovable object.
Immovable object.
Unstoppable
force.
Which one of those is Nia Jax? Which one is her nickname?
She might be the immovable object, which is pretty funny.
Is she really?
She's huge, man.
That's like an awful nickname for a person.
Yeah, it's like very mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's what this game will kind of be. So yeah, what were we talking about? Yeah, don't play Dak.
Okay. All right. There you have it. Don't play Dak. Don't play Tommy Lee Lewis. We're real smart.
Keith Kirkwood.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard hitting shit.
I know New Orleans has been great, but just from like a 7-point favorite on the road is like significant, like they really expect them to win this game. I don't know. The betting line to me is very interesting because I don't know what I would have set it as if I was, like an odds maker, but this seems weird to me in that it seems like a high favorite for New Orleans and then a high over under as well.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking like the Cowboys could sneak a win out here, and I'm not sure why. I just feel like they really do match up well against the Saints more than people are looking at. Like,
they can do it if they keep the pace down, but then New Orleans rush defense has been really good too.
Yeah, but you can do anything with Zeke. I feel like Zeke is going to have a great game. I know you said he's not going to have a great one. I feel like he's going to be probably the most utilized skill player for the Cowboys this game.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it, guys. Vinny, you got anything else to leave the people with?
Not much. One more week until you either get into your playoffs or your fucking playoffs start. So buckle the fuck down. We're here. This is what we've been striving for all year. And it's, dude, I'm like sad. This year is blown by like faster than like ones in recent memory for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we say this every year, but it really has gone quickly. It felt like, just recently we were like previewing all the divisions and shit, but now here it is. It's about to be week 13. So guys, if you're listening to this, make sure to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you are listening. Make sure to keep an eye out for the week 13 preview. It'll be 2 parts. It should be me and Shrek. It should be up on Friday and Saturday mornings. Make sure to listen to both of those. I'm going to get real toasty during those. It'll be sweet. It'll be a lot of fun, and try and get you guys as much information as possible. So for Vinny and for Let's Talk Fantasy Football, I am Walsh. Later, podcast.